Well, it was interesting because I really wasn't sure what this was, to be honest with you. You know, they talked to you, you're going to be out there and, you know, and there'll be some light exercise or light physical activity. And other than that, I really wasn't sure. So when you arrive and you know, here's your clothes, go get changed, and you do your pre-brief, and then before you know it, you're in the back of a transport being pushed out, you know, out to the field. And we were out for almost 10 hours from start to finish on a very hot day. So I have to admit, I was a bit nervous as I got into this. I'm not sure what's coming at me right here. You then moved into some pre-mission rehearsal training, how to enter into a building, how to make sure that you secure a building. And what I didn't realize is we'd be using that in real life in the afternoon as we simulate the attack on the town. I think every business would be beneficial to go on this. Why? Because you get to realize that these folks, you know, as a team, and in some very dire circumstances and situations, understand they're dependent on each other. Each must exercise or execute their component of the mission successfully. And if it doesn't work, that everyone needs to rally around, you know, because again, you can only plan, there's so many things happen in real time, that everyone needs to work in real time through communications to kind of make sure you're in the best position possibly successful in the mission. The relevance to businesses, it's not lost on me. Yeah. You know, to be able to rehearse, to be able to understand the roles, the responsibilities. One of my favorite things that happens during the day is after every exercise, after our simulated attack or our light armored vehicle attack, there was a debrief, and it was led by the most senior officer there, and he or she would be able to say what went well and what didn't go well, what they could do better. And I think if you put that again in business context, if we could talk about as a business, you know, everything that happens here and do debriefs with regard to not only how things went, good or bad, but be honest about how you could be better. And I think the fact that started at the most senior leader was a great message to everyone. And so everyone was able to then step up and say what they could have done better. So I love that. I love that, and it's something, frankly, I got to figure out how to continue to bring that into a business context, because I think that's something that could be transportable out of the military culture into a business culture for sure. We've really spent a lot of time here as Calian looking at what we call our core purpose, not what we do, but why we exist. And we've summarized the very diverse nature of Calian to a simple phrase: we help the world communicate, innovate, lead healthy lives, and stay safe. So one of the key things, and I've told my staff, we had a town hall a couple weeks ago and I was able to talk about the story and I talked about our core purpose. And that day, walking away, I really felt connected to our core purpose, you know, helping the world lead healthy lives, helping the world stay safe, because the work that we're doing as Calian, clearly I could see in the outcomes of what I saw that day with the military being trained, the healthcare we're providing, the services we're providing the military and have been for over 25 years. So number one, it was me getting really connected to our core purpose and the why we exist. The second thing is just the incredible commitment of the men and women in the military. Petawawa was a high readiness base, and I was talking to this, Jason was his name, and he was kind of like my buddy for some of the attacks, making sure I was safe. But he talked about, you know, 205 days, I think, of training that they're on, because they're getting ready if anything bad happens, it needs to be deployed, they're ready to go. So the level of commitment, I know I woke up the next morning after 10 hours and sweating the whole kits, and I'm thinking, I'm exhausted. And I kept thinking about that group is going back out for another exercise, and it was going to be another 35-degree day. And their commitment, never one complaining, always excited, always basically ready to go. And so their commitment and passion to what they view as their core purpose was outstanding. And again, we're very lucky to have those men and women out there for us. And then the third is just the requirement for communications and effective communications throughout an organization. And in this context, it was clearly mission critical. You know, we had to get it right. The communications were literally life and death. And everyone was on the same page. Everyone knew their role. And then when we got back, we were able to communicate how it went and how it didn't went. I think there's huge lessons for business in there as well on just taking that moment to say, how did it go? I think in business we kind of move to the next thing without taking that step to say, let's do a debrief on how it went and how we could do it better. And so just some lesson learned on process, frankly, as well. And again, I don't think I've ever been prouder to be part of Calian or proud of our men and women coming away from that for 10 hours. I just, you can imagine what it's like to be in the field. And again, this was simulated. So I have to put that in context. It was simulated. But when I went home that night, I've always had an amazing respect for our military, but I think it went up tenfold, just because you get to realize firsthand just how much personal commitment it takes to do this day in and day out, protecting our interests as Canadians.